Welcome to Dementia-Friendly Prince George's County, Maryland, Northern Sector's webinar series for caregivers. Today's topic is a part of our author series, Being My Mom's Mom by Loretta Veney. This video is sponsored by Prince George's County Government and the Department of Family Services.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to be here this evening to talk about the book, Being My Mom's Mom. It was the first of my 3 books, and I updated it. It originally came out in 2013, and I updated it in 2019, primarily because there were so many changes in Mom between, those 6 years. It was like, wow. So I thought I wanted to share, some of the lessons that I had learned since then. So that's really what we're going to do tonight. And so I'll tell you some of the best stories from the book, but also, hopefully provide some good tips about, how I have survived the now 15 years that we've been on this journey. My mom was diagnosed with dementia in 2006. And so I'm really happy and proud to be part of DFA, Prince George's County, North County. And I'm thrilled that they asked me to be here this evening to, sort of share some of what I have learned so far and what some of the lessons are from the book. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so one of the things I think everybody remembers about this diagnosis is you remember where you were, you remember what day it was probably, and you see the signs, you kind of are expecting the diagnosis, but then when you hear it, you are in the beginning stages of dementia. Wow, that was pretty scary. And my mom looked terrified. And if you've known me at all, you've seen me before, or you've heard me on a call or something, I'm a pretty positive person. And I kept trying to find something positive to say, but what do you really say that's positive about dementia? So the only thing I could think of to say was, I have no idea what the future holds for us. The only thing I do know is that we're going to do this together. And I was holding her hand, and my mother, I was trying to say, there's worse things than that, than dementia. Probably should not have said that. And that was my mother's response, the quote you're looking at: other than dying, what is worse than not being able to remember anything or anyone? And I talk about, what that felt like in the book. And, you're shocked, you're stunned. And only because, my mom, she was diagnosed at 77. And if you have to get it, I guess that's not a bad age, but that's young in our family. My great grandmother still lived alone at 100. So I'm thinking, I was really afraid that I would run out of money. And let's just be honest, I wrote the book because I was afraid my mother would outlive my money. And she turned 92 in February during COVID. So it was the first time we had ever not been together. You'll hear more about that in a little bit. But that's, the diagnosis, and everybody reacts differently. So what we're going to do is talk about the 4 greatest lessons. There are a lot of stories in the book, a lot of lessons, but I picked 4 to talk about tonight. And I think the greatest lesson I learned, first of all, is it takes up the first part of the book, talking about forgiveness and patience and why that's mandatory for being the best caregiver you want to be. And I'll show you a little bit about why that is. So everybody has a story about their relationship with the folks that they're caring for. Some of you might be professional caregivers, but the rest of us are family caregivers. And one of the, I think, about this lesson that really hit home for me was we sort of have to start our life over from the moment you get that dementia diagnosis. And our story, you can see on the screen, starting from the picture on the left. By the way, you're gonna get to meet my whole family before our time is over, but it's the best way to kind of tell the story. But my mother had told us that there were no pictures of their wedding, my parents' wedding. Well, as you can see on the left, there's at least one, and you're looking right at it. So I don't know what the big secret was, but there you go. And then guess what? In 1959, 10 years later, here I come. There I am in the middle. I still look like that, right? Except for all this white hair on the top. And I had a really cool birth. My mother had banana splits for dessert, I guess, and she thought she had indigestion. And by the time she realized she did not have indigestion, I was out. So there you have that. And so the only people there were my mom and dad. How cool is that, to be delivered by your father? And I was also born in a blizzard. So I couldn't go to the hospital. So they just called the doctor and he said, count her fingers and toes. And I seemed to have it all. And then when the blizzard was over, my father went to the store to get bread and milk or whatever else you get when the blizzard is over. And he did not come back. So I spent most of my life looking for my father. When I turned 21 years old, I got my private investigator's license and I found my father so my parents could get a divorce. That was very interesting. And, I had always done these investigations and things. My master's degree is in forensic science. So I was always looking into situations. So let's fast forward all the way to 2011. I never met my father, and he died in 1991 in DC, where we were fifth generation Washingtonians, but he and I never met. So in 2011, my Aunt Franny, who you see on the right, was the secret keeper in our family. I'm sure all of us have family secrets. Well, my aunt was the keeper of the secrets. And in 2011, she thought she was dying. So she told me the family secret, that it was my mother who kept us. I had a sister who kept us from having a relationship with our father. So I'm gonna let that sink in for a minute. Now, I speak at a lot of churches. People always ask me, oh, I bet you hate your mother. Well, here's what I had to do. Uh, I had to sort of pretend, if you will, that the first day of the dementia diagnosis was the rest of our lives. And so, as upset as I was about that news, I remember falling on the floor. I cried, I rolled around, I did all that stuff, and then I got up because I'm all my mother has. So I had to sort of begin again our relationship, and just I sort of chalked it up to my mother did what she felt was best for us at the time. Did make me happy? No. And some people ask, do I wish I did not know the secret? Maybe, yeah, sometimes I do. But I, forgave her all that, and we moved forward. I mean, she wasn't in positions to answer my question, which was, what were you thinking? And I was never going to get an answer to my question. So rather than hold a grudge, I just, love my mother for who she was. And every day, as you know, as this disease gets, deeper and deeper, every day is different. And so I leave that with you in terms of, we have to forgive others, not only for things they may have done in the past, but what they do during the course of this disease. Okay. They might curse, throw things, and it's not them. It's just the disease. But so we have to do a lot of forgiving in order to be a great caregiver. And then forgiving yourself. If you have ever gone to bed, like, oh, I didn't unload the dishwasher, the dryer, or whatever it is, you cannot, hold yourself accountable with all this guilt. You only have 24 hours in a day, and that's all the time we're going to have. And so, forgiveness is really, part of it, but guilt will kill us. So, give yourself a break. You only can accomplish what you can accomplish, and especially during COVID. Look at how stressed we are. So we have to forgive others, forgive ourselves, and overcome guilt. And a lot of times that takes patience, which is the other part. So if you have thought to yourself, wow, I need more patience. Betty just put in the chat that she was caregiver for, 18 years. Holy cow. And, we'll talk a little bit about keeping them stimulated and all that, because I do have some suggestions for that. But it does take, Betty, as you know, it takes a ton of patience. And here's some of the things that it's in the book. And I actually borrowed this from someone, but wow, did it help me. And one of the things that I think there's 6 of them, you can read them, but I want to say a few words about the triggers. We know what triggers us. Now I'm going to use Betty's example of the sundowner. Now, when you know that's coming on, maybe in the afternoon, you start to get a little, antsy, and maybe, the first couple of things that happens when sundowners show up, we lose our patience. But if we know sundown is going to be a trigger for us, we have to put in some mechanisms, whether it's deep breathing or whatever it is, because we know that's a trigger for us. And I'll talk about what some of the other triggers are in just a minute. But we have to be, wear our positive glasses, it says. And I had to work on number 3, which is change your attitude. I hated this disease with a passion. I mean, it was killing me the way it was, robbing me of my mother. So I had to change my attitude about it. And you hear me say more about that as we go through. But the visualization of facing the problem, whatever it is, repetition, behavioral changes, sundowning, whatever it is, I really do visualize myself facing whatever it is and overcoming it or getting through it. And that really did help with my patience and the self-confidence. We second guess a lot of the decisions we make along this process, but it can work for us to be able to build, self-confidence and have more confidence in what we do. And that helps with it. Now, if you have ever been accused of stealing something, you stole my keys, you took my money, you slept with the next door neighbor, all kinds of stuff that we are accused of doing, wow, that requires patience. But two of the things I suggest in the book is not arguing with them ever. You're never going to win that argument. And it's not them. Again, it's just the disease. But one strategy I had, you see those purses on the screen there? I bought extra purses, keys, everything, and put them all over the house. You see those purses don't match. Those are not the purses I bought, of course. But I mean, I went to Goodwill. I bought every purse known to man. We photocopied her non-driver's ID in color, laminated it, and put it in all the purses. That way, when she opened the purse and stuck her head in and said, "It's mine," and so she was relieved. So rather than listen to her yell and scream, "Where's my purse? You stole my purse. You took my money." And I not only, my degree is not only in forensic science, I taught grad school for a while in investigation. So I have fake money. And so go to the dollar store and buy some fake money. They can't tell us real or not at this point. Buy fake jewelry, anything that they might accuse you of. And by the way, hide the real stuff. Go to the Goodwill or wherever and buy some fake jewelry if they're jewelry people, so that you don't have what happened to one of our support group members a couple of weeks ago, where their mother gave a $10,000 ring to a neighbor and the neighbor wouldn't give it back. So please don't let that be you. But duplicate anything that is lost frequently, and that cuts down a lot on some of the accusations. Now, I speak a lot. I've done more than 300 of these presentations, and I speak about a lot of different things. But the one question I get all the time is, how do you stand it when they say the same thing over and over and over? And here's my answer. We kept mom really busy, really, really busy. And yes, those are Lego bricks you're looking at. I might be the only Lego instructor you have ever met. And I'll say a little bit more about that as we go through. But I have a certification in something called Lego Serious Play. It's sort of a long story, but it certainly helps me keep mom busy. And not only did my mother not repeat the same thing while she was playing with the Lego bricks, which we did my entire childhood, and that is the only thing she remembers about me. She doesn't know my name or our relationship, but when you get those Legos out, she comes to life. And so amazing that that is the thing that she has held on to. But not only does she not repeat while she's playing with the Legos, she doesn't say a word. So you talk about going to extremes. It's an amazing thing to watch. We also used a lot of photos to keep her focused and to stop that cycle you see on the left of the repetition. And so in that picture, my mother's in the back row. She was 13 in that picture. I have about 700 photos on my phone from 1929 when she was born to 1949, which is about as far as she can go. And she, until a couple of months ago, still remembered her parents. And she does not at this point. And that's kind of a long story too. But I know the repetition is really difficult. Now, sundowners, this is the part where I talk about that. Confusion is really what sundowning is all about. They forget everything, about, themselves. And so one of the ways we dealt with, my mother was very argumentative. You see that yellow cake on the left there. And it was an Easter Sunday, it was 6 years ago or so. And my mother would argue about that cake. We all had cake. It was Easter Sunday. And my mom had finished her cake and asked for a piece of cake. I said, "You just had cake." "I would know if I had cake." Wow. Okay. So now two things you could do. You could give her another piece of cake, but remember, sugar, probably not a great idea. Or you could argue with them till the cows come home. How I chose to deal with it is, after that incident, I started taking pictures of everything we did, everything. So when you would take a picture, she'd see herself in the same outfit. So if she had 12 cookies, you could show her eating the 12 cookies. And in that picture, my mom would say, she could see she has on the same outfit in the picture. So she would say, well, did I like the cake? Yes, girl, you love the cake. And these are the things you have to do. And the picture on the right is interesting. So one of the things I'll share with you is on March 23rd, I put my mom in hospice. And I was told she was in liver failure. And I was told she had days to live. Well, okay, so that was March 23rd. Never give up. We named her Wonder Woman. Never give up on her. And you can see we're throwing and catching a ball. And that was probably 10 days ago. And what is amazing about that picture is, she's supposed to be dying. And so I am never going to give up on her. So I keep her as engaged as possible. People think just give up. She's in hospice. I put her in hospice because they said, I didn't want her to be in pain. And they say she's in liver failure. So, okay, I just want her to be comfortable. And that's why hospice is there. So you're like, this is amazing. And, we just have to play as it goes. I try to be as joyful as I can about that. And we're pretty good with the sundowning. They're on an exact schedule. And today is interesting. We had a huge Mother's Day celebration luncheon at the group home where she lives. I still have on the same clothes I had at the luncheon. And I did, the later it got, they were outside like 4:30. That's kind of the limit for her. So they were rolling them away to take them back to the other group homes and things. So they keep on that schedule no matter what festivities or whatever going on, because you have to live with them later. And so the scheduling really helps. And that's one of the most amazing things. Now write this down if this is not in the book, but one of the things I want to say about confusion and patience. If you have never taken a virtual dementia tour, that is what that picture on the left is about. You have on glasses, headphones, and they put gloves on you so it mimics arthritis, and you have things in your shoes that hurt like heck. It reminds you of, neuropathy and everything. And they give you 5 tasks. You go into this living room kind of place. They open the door and in you go. They give you 5 tasks to complete. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go in there and do that. I didn't even get 2 things done. And it's only like 2 or 3 minutes. It's the longest 2 or 3 minutes of your life. And people are talking to you and all you're hearing is white noise in these headphones. And at the 5 tasks, I was supposed to fill up this pill bottle thing. I dropped all the pills on the floor. It was a nightmare. I burst into tears like many people when it was over. Like, is this what my mother's life is like? So you want to have empathy and you want to understand more about what they're going through, do that thing. It is the craziest experience, because all those things that it says on that sign, confusion and lost and perplexed, all those things roll into one. So you really do not only need the forgiveness, but the patience too. And that is definitely lesson number 1. Woo, lesson number 2, prepare for everything. Where do you take it? But now, so I'm gonna come back to that at the end. Hold on to that question. I'm gonna give you some examples. It is a very cool thing. Most assisted living, I'll give you the short answer now. Most assisted living places offer it. And I'll give you a couple of things, and I'll even look into DFA and see if they have anything on the schedule. But so a lot of times either an adult day place will offer it, or some of the assisted living places, and you can sign up and go. But it is it's stunning. It's mind-blowing in a lot of ways. And but it's very good to at least understand what they're going through. It's really amazing. So prepare for everything, be ready for anything. So not only do I give all these presentations, I also talk a lot about family meetings. It's easy to say, well, this is where I want to live, but you have to look at, is there money for that kind of thing? So during these family meetings, have them and then talk about where the folks want to live, when they get older and can't live alone. There's my great grandma on the left. That's her 100th birthday party. I mean, really, 100th birthday party. And she fought us. She lived alone at 100, and she fought us when she didn't want to move to assisted living. Then she figured out there were men there. She was all ready to go then. More information than you want to know about your grandma, but okay. Ladies and gentlemen, she lived to be 107. And so, as you can tell, again, my fear was that my mother would live for so long with this disease. I was about 15 in that picture at her 100th birthday party. And I think, we had all been lulled to sleep with our complacency. We thought our loved ones were going to live forever. And then here at 77, my mom's diagnosed, and we're like, wow, we should have met and talked about this stuff. The only thing we really knew for sure about our mother is that she didn't want to live with us. She made us, she lives in the group home because that's what she wanted. She made us sign a document that we would not force her to live with us. Isn't that something? And I'm living up to that. Now, when I say prepare for anything, a lot of heartbreak with this disease, a lot. And we have to make a variety of decisions that make other people in our family unhappy. On the left, that's my sister's 61st birthday, and we had on the stupid hats because we knew it was going to be my sister's last birthday. She got MS in her 50s, and when that happens, you usually get what they call progressive. And she lived about 4 years, and she died in 2011. I was there when she died. Originally, I was taking care of them both, but I could not do that, and so I took her to LA to live with my niece. And then there we are in LA. And so when my sister died, I chose not to tell my mother. Now I'm gonna let that sink in for a moment. And the reason I didn't is these are decisions you have to make. I chose not to tell my mother because she hadn't seen my sister in a few years. And by the time my sister died, she had forgotten she had 2 kids. Why bring it up? So people say, oh my God, I can't believe you didn't tell your mama. Well, what did I want her to do with that information? And I wasn't going to risk it. So my philosophy was, if she ever asked me about it, I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. She has never once, and of course at this point will not. She doesn't know who I am now, so of course she's never going to ask about my sister. There's pictures up, everything in her room. Not a question about her ever. So let it go. And these are the kinds of decisions that are heartbreaking, but you live with them. My mother had a horrific 2020. Not only was there COVID, she started having seizures. We don't know why. And then her strength never came back like it was. So she had a fall, broke her clavicle and 4 ribs. And because of the limited speech that she has, she wouldn't seem like she's in any pain. When she started breathing funny, we thought she had COVID. No, she was breathing funny because she had, broken ribs. Who knew? And the fall was like 4 days, earlier. So you feel like the worst child in the world if you don't know this. But we didn't. So there she is with her little sling, and there's the best caregiver in America, Janet, and just craziness. And then, as I already pointed out, when she was hospitalized on March 23rd, I was told at first she had hours to live. So they let me go to Southern Maryland Hospital to see her. And that's because they thought she was dying that night, and she clearly did not. And so I asked for her to go back to the group home, which we did. And that's where we are. And it's heartbreaking that they're saying that, my mother has very limited time, and you can see the progression of the liver failure. But like I said, she's still here, and we're going to be happy. And that's how I've dealt with the heartbreak. But how you deal with it, just make sure you have a support person. And please take note of this. And I talk about it. The main reason I wrote the second edition was because of this. Have a plan and a backup plan. This disease is merciless. So we have to have all kinds of plans. So when I got my mom in the first group home, I was like, whew, all right, group home, we ready. And then a lawyer says, well, the caregiver that owned the group home was 80. He says, well, what is her succession plan? I don't know. Well, where are you going to put your mother when she dies? The owner of the group home. Oh, I hadn't thought of that. I'm just happy to get her in the group home. Don't be asking all those questions. But you have to have a plan and a backup plan. So on the left there, you're looking at my go bag that I had for mom. It's still in my car because even though they say she's dying, then she's probably never going to be in my car again, but I never took the bag out the car. It's got extra clothes. It's got meds that we update. It has all kinds of things. Look at all the natural emergencies we're having. If you have to grab your stuff and go, you got to have stuff all packed up and be ready. What I didn't have a backup plan for was that guy in the middle, the real tall guy, taller than us. I was married to him for 2 weeks shy of 31 years when he died suddenly while we were on vacation in New York. And not only was that a stunning thing for me, it'll be 5 years this July. He and my sister died on the same day, 5 years apart. That's just wrong on so many levels. But the challenge with replacing Tim, you can't replace Tim at all. But the issue was he did everything for my mother. I still work full time. So he drove my mother everywhere, had taught my mother to get into his huge SUV. I had this little teeny Cadillac that was my dream car that she could not get into. So before I could bury my husband, I had to buy a car. I have a backup plan, people. So what was my backup plan? I had to make one real quick. I didn't make anything. Of course, my church put together a support group just for me. Who has their own support group? I do. And they asked me to write down everything Tim did for my mother. And I did that. And they each took a task. Where would I be without them? I don't know. Thankfully, the picture there's Janet again. That was the first week my mother moved to the second group home, which participated in the waiver program. We'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. But the thing about being prepared, we have to be a little smarter than this disease, because you never know when the next thing's going to come. So when you get a walker, already be planning where you're going to put that hospital bed. So no, you don't have to find one, but no, this is the medical supply company I'm going to be using. Or if you have a social worker, just know what the backup plan is, because when these emergencies happen, you're stressed. You don't have time to be getting on the internet and searching for a hospital bed or wheelchair or whatever it is. So prepare for everything. Be ready for anything. Preparation. Now, I was on the last book call with Carol Amos, and she talked a lot about, these documents. I'm not going to say a lot about that. I want to say, though, if you're having difficulty convincing your loved one to move or to stop driving or whatever, there are some wonderful conversation starters out there. AARP's Caregiver Corner is their discussion group. It's one of the best out there. They have a lot of ways to bring it up. Dad, you really need to stop driving, and that kind of thing. What we do in one of the support groups I moderate is we practice what you're gonna say, and the other person plays your loved one. I'm a drive. I'm a grown man. I can drive if I want to. So they just role play, and sometimes that makes it easier. But more important, know where all the financial stuff is. I have friends who are a little younger than me who just found out their parents had a second mortgage on the house nobody knew about. This is not the time to find out about that when they need to go to assisted living. So preparation prevents problems. Do it now. Tell the rest of your family, where you want to live and all that kind of stuff. Look at your financials. It's nice to say you want to live in Brandywine Senior Living, which is up in Potomac. I went there the other day. I don't know how anybody affords that. It's like $8,000 a month. Who's counting? But I don't have that. And so it's nice to say I want to live there, but if you can't afford it, we need to be realistic about that too. Where do you find out about all of the financial help you might need or anything? Start with your Department of Aging, dementia friendly. We can certainly point you in the direction of some of these things. I mentioned the waiver program. Here's I don't want to say problem with it. I don't have a problem with the program. Here's what I did wrong with this program. I don't know why I didn't apply for it until 3 years after my mother was diagnosed. By the time I did that, don't ask me why I waited. By the time I did that, 23,000 people were on the list in front of us. So don't do that. Sign up for everything now. Encourage all the people, and you're really going to talk about this a lot in the book. When Tim was alive, and I was adding $1,500 a month to pay for my mother's care until my name came up on the waiver list. It took 8 years, by the way, 8 years and 6 months, but who's counting? When Tim died, that $1,500 a month added to my mother's rent got a little more difficult. I got it done. That's why I wrote this book. So all my speeches go to pay for my mother's care. And so that was the strategy I came up with. If there are programs for respite assistance, please put your name on that. I talk about that in the book too, taking care of yourself and all that. So even if you don't need it right now, well, I don't want to sign up for the Depends and the wipes and all those things, the gloves, everything you need when they become incontinent. Sign up now, because by the time your name comes around, you're going to need it. So don't feel bad about signing up. If I could do it differently, I would undo that. So look at all the things, financial and legal. I am my mother's power of attorney. I do have a living will. And her doctors have become part of our family. That is her general practitioner over at National Harbor. And we've been with Dr. Adoko forever. She was really disappointed about us putting her in hospice, because that takes her out of the picture, but I've been keeping her updated. But just know where all of these things are and where we stand. This is the most form. If you have not seen it, and a lot of you probably been around for a while, and we definitely need that. So in the book, I really try to stress people, do all these things. And in some places, the most form is more powerful than the DNR. And so it depends on where you live. On March 23rd, at first they didn't let me see my mother. They told me to bring over the DNR. I got to the emergency room door. They snatched it out of my hand and the door closed. And so I asked, could I see her? And they said, not right then. So yeah, but preparation really does prevent problems. And please check into, I don't talk about this in the book so much, but this really goes along with the second lesson that I do talk about in the book, and that is use technology. I have a lot more technology that I'm using now than when she was diagnosed back in 2006, of course, and way before COVID. My mother was the FaceTime Pro. That's her and Janet talking to another caregiver. The caregivers call my mama on their days off. That's how popular my mother is. And so we were using that kind of stuff way before that. My mother was a runner, escape artist, and so that that little wristband that you're looking at has her name, and the Light Springs Elder Care, that's the name of her facility, and the phone number. And then she has a robotic dog at the top. It barks, its tail wags, his head moves. He's very entertaining. So again, just things to keep them calm and relaxed. Right now, the dog is sitting in the bed with her in the group home. So on the right there, that's her neurologist trying to figure out why she had the seizure. So we're doing the virtual visit, which I love. And she's a fabulous neurologist. We didn't figure out the seizure problem, but that's okay. The second time my mother escaped, I'm like, listen, I'm done with this. So I put a tracker in her shoe. Of course, she's not going to run anywhere now, but this was a lifesaver. So just look for things or ask for some help, for if you have specific problems, be prepared to use some technology. Why did I put the one in her shoe? Because back in the day, 4 or 5 years ago, my mother used to take all her clothes off when sundowning showed up. Okay. So the only thing she does not take off was her shoes. She used to try to sleep with her shoes. Thus, that was the only tracker I felt would work for us, because if you had it in her jeans or her pocket or whatever, she'd throw that away. And so the tracker really helped us. And you can see, it tracks you, within feet of where you are. And so, I really hope the preparation piece, lesson number 2, just such a huge thing. Now, humor and hope. The last part of the book focuses on these two things. And Carol's book last month, she talked a lot about hope. That's the title of her book. And I've known Carol for a long time now. We've been on the circuit together. We've done a lot of Alzheimer's things together. And, we do hold on to that hope. And the humor part really does help us get through. So, doing the 10, 12, 18 years that we're doing with these things, with these diseases and the behaviors and all that, we have to have something to, keep them, really busy. I love, Betty, I loved your point about the puzzles specific to Alzheimer's. And yeah, they're so great because they have limited pieces. But as you point out, as the disease progresses, it does get harder to do, even that. But let's talk a little bit about the humor and hope here. Let's see. Oops. There we go. And, the humor part, and I just want to say for the record, certainly we're not laughing, at the person, you're kind of laughing, with them. And sometimes this disease, no disease is funny, but some of the things that happen as part of this disease is just mind-blowingly funny. And we've been in the Washington Post, the New York Times, Psychology Today. We have made some of the circuits. And so the New York Times photographer comes to our house and to the group home. And one of the things that he wanted to see, he had read about elsewhere, was that my mother could still, she didn't know who I was by then, but she could go through her high school yearbook, Cardozo High School in DC, 1947, and name all the people still. Doesn't have a clue who I was, but she could still do that. And he wanted to see it. So she's going through the book. She's naming Betty and Janie and Susie. Woohoo! And looking at this picture, this is the Spanish Club on the left. Now, trust me, there are 13 girls in this picture. I know it's not that clear, but there are 13 girls in the picture, and there's one boy in the back. See the boy in the back? He's got on a little ROTC uniform. Now, my mother's on the front row, all the way on the right. She's got the dark sweater and the plaid skirt. She's holding some maracas. You can't really see it, but that's Mama. So she names all the girls, but she totally skips the boy. So the New York Times guy, he says, well, wow, you named all the girls. Who's that boy in the back? She says, I don't know. I don't know him. We weren't friends or anything. And he says, well, that's so weird. You name all the girls, and you don't know who he is. She says, no, we weren't friends, and I don't know why he would want to be in a club with all girls. Well, see, this is what I call selective dementia, because my mother knew that boy for at least a minute, because that boy is my father. How about that? And so if you ask my mother, she would tell you she never been married, she don't have no kids. I'm like, wow, I'm standing right here. And she's set on that. And so there's no arguing with her about that. So my name is very nice person. That's who I am to her. I'm a very nice person. I come almost every day. So yep, I'm a very nice person. But that is the funniest thing ever, that she just blocked it all out. And then I did a coloring book for her in July of 2019 for her 90th birthday, and she helped me with it. She got really frustrated, as Betty pointed out. One of the things that happens is they used to be able to do word finds and puzzles, and of course that gets more difficult. So she got frustrated with her other coloring books. So I used Word, made the shapes in Word and printed it out. Had big spaces for her to color. She thought of the title, "Colors Flowing from My Mind," because she wasn't frustrated by it anymore. So because she had helped me with it, she picked out all the designs of it, and I laid 50 out on the table, and she picked 30 that she liked. Okay. So I put her picture on the back of the book to give her credit. So in a really lucid moment, she's sitting in in the backyard. We're doing the of course the outdoor visits last year, and she's looking at the back of the book. She sees her picture with mine, and so she says, "What are you doing on the back of my book, girl? You wouldn't even have a book if it wasn't for me." I mean, she just unbelievable. And everybody, everybody who was outside with us, Janet, the caregiver, the activities director, everybody's hysterically laughing. And she's serious. She want to know why I'm on the back of her book. But if you don't laugh at these things, you go crazy. And I have said, even now, when it's supposed to be the last days of her life, we laugh about everything. You'll see a picture from today, and I don't know what we're laughing at. We're laughing at something. And stuff just is funny, because I would rather do that than cry all the time. I've never cried in front of my mother, even on my 55th birthday, which was the first day she didn't remember me. I'm 62, so that was 7 years ago. And I went outside. They were singing happy birthday, and she got really upset. And she threw her cake on the floor because she couldn't remember what a birthday was. And so I was devastated, of course. And I got to my car and cried and cried. But I've never cried in front of her, and I hope to leave it at that as well. And so not only has the humor got me through, and I talk a lot about the funny, there's a whole section in the book about the funny things she says, but I think the hope part really sustained us. And so I put the DFA logo in there. When I was talking to people who have never heard of DFA, they're like, what is that? And I'm so, as I said earlier, we're really proud to be part of the Prince George's County, North County chapter. And it does bring you a lot of hope, because you're not only helping people right now get vaccinated and some of the other things we talk about in the meetings, but we're finding ways to get people, even in the midst of COVID, to finding the things that they need. And that's hopeful. If you are not familiar with the Alzheimer's stamp, this of course is not in the book, but it's part of the hope that we're dealing with right now. If you know anything about a fundraiser stamp, the stamp came out in 2017. And because of the way the fundraiser stamps work, it's good for 2 years. So in 2019, it expired. But we lobbied to Congress to get it extended, like the breast cancer stamp. And one of the last things John Lewis signed before his death was to keep that stamp going. And so they ordered the Postmaster General not to destroy the seal, the mold for the stamp. And so it came back out in October of 2020. So there's me and Ma last week with our stamps. Every time I run out, I mailed all my Mother's Day cards. And so there she is holding her stamp. She helped me put the stamps on the letter. See, they would say she dying, but she helping me mail some stuff. So there you go. So there we are with our stamps. So if you haven't gotten some, our goal was to raise $1 million. We raised $1.2 million so far, and now that it's back, we hope to continue to raise a lot of money. And so that's a lot of hope, because it goes straight to research. And so that $1.2 million, we just hope to continue to grow that. And then the bottom left picture, here's why we have to be honest about what we're feeling. When people were asking you, oh, how you doing during COVID? Oh, I'm fine. Nobody was fine. And I was hysterical. That 99 days I went without seeing my mother was the longest of our lives that we've been separated. And so I cried and cried and told my best friend. She ordered 2 photo pillows that you see in that picture. And then I took mom's over to her. They sanitized it and then held the door open so I could see her reaction. And Janet gives her the pillow and she looks at it. She says, "That's me." Now she don't say nothing about me on the pillow, but I'm trying to get over that. Okay, but Chris gave them to us so we could hug, our pillow when we were missing each other. I mean, it is the best gift ever. And when I'm talking about hope in the book, it's really that we have to find something to hold on to, and literally that pillow, fits in. So hope, really is healing for sure. So laugh a lot, because this disease will kill you, as even as a caregiver, if you don't. And so our last one is pretty short. It's just have no expectations. That's been my motto the entire time, because every day is different. And so what I have chosen to do is, instead of focusing on all the things my mother can no longer do, I only focus on what she can still do. That's how I'm gonna do that. And that's how we're gonna end this story. And so, you can see the top left picture. That thing is fascinating. On August 9th of 2020, on the left of that top picture, Janet is practically moving Ma bodily, lifting her up almost. And then a week later, we had practiced so much with walking with Mom that now she was just holding her by one hand. And so I told you we named Mom Wonder Woman. And she had a seizure in January 12th, and there she was on the 14th, back from the hospital. And I was having such a bad day that day. And then I watched that woman walk, and she would refuse to get in the lift. She wanted to walk up the stairs by herself. And they named her, Wonder Woman on Facebook. They named her that for a reason. And I'm so proud of her. And you can say she's dying all you want, and I guess she is. But look at all the activities we've been doing. Now, Betty, I don't know if it was you or somebody else that wrote about activities. She's going to be active until I'm not here or she's not here. We had her painting, that is called Dot a Dot on the bottom left. The We See game, if you've never seen that, it's just photos that you can, hopefully elicit some memories. And then I have all kinds of fidget toys for her. So every day we play something different. And no, she's not focusing on, but look at her face. She is engaged. And also, I'm just all about focusing on what she can still do. I've been that way since the book came out in 2013. That way when the second edition came out as well. And we're just gonna, go with that. And that's how I, get through, each day. And they mentioned the puzzle in the comments a minute ago in the chat. And my mother did that, I think it's 17-piece puzzle that's on the left. That was Christmas of 2019. Of course, I didn't see her Christmas of 2020. And then the group home, they have an activity bus. And when Mom needed to get her x-ray checked, after her ribs checked after her fall, we had to take her all the way downtown to the Washington Hospital Center. Well, the COVID rates are like $450 to go 16 miles. Are you kidding? So the activity director, the owner of the group home, agreed to let the activity director take me. And that was just so good. And I have no expectations about how things are going to go, but that was just a blessing I never expected. And then Mom's had some really bad days too. That was probably 2 weeks ago, the bottom left with the blue. She still got her pajamas on. She didn't feel like putting clothes on that day, and we don't push her to do anything. And, I just had, no expectations. If the day is good, I was like, yay. If the day is not so good, maybe I come home and cry, but maybe not. And then the picture on the right, that's today. That's like I said, you can see I got on the same outfit, the purple thing. They had their little Mother's Day luncheon. They got them all dressed up. They had on makeup, and I bought her that new dress and all of that. And there they were. What a beautiful day to be out. And the owner built that deck so that all the families could come. She had a little patio before COVID, but since we can only still do outdoor visits unless you're fully vaccinated, which I am, but that's how we live. You don't have any idea how things are going to play out. And I just, want to approach each day as each day. And I think these 15 years have been, I don't want to say great, but they've been manageable because we've tried to bring joy and we've tried to, focus on what is at hand, whether that's good or bad. And my mother had a horrible day yesterday. I wasn't even sure she'd be able to do the little party today, but there she is, and she's smiling. And so I'm like, man, this is the best thing ever. I was so worried. I was pretty sick this morning because I was a little worried about how this was going to go. And see, we worry for nothing. That's why you have no expectations. But I think that's really key. So I'm going to leave you with this story. The reason that motto came about, and it's been about 6 years, I guess, is because the picture you're looking at is police cars, which means somebody's missing. So my mother got out. This was the reason I got the tracker in her shoe. And you never want to see the police cars looking for your mama. And two women find her, thankfully. They put her in the car. My mother had not said my name in 5 years, and all of a sudden she says Loretta in their car. And the girl says, "Who's Loretta?" My mother says, "I don't know." So the girl gets on her phone. Who does this? The girl gets on her phone. She types in Loretta in Maryland, and the Washington Post article pops up. Holy cow. The girl says, "That's her. That's her right there." So my whole name is in there, Loretta Woodward Veney. She gets on Facebook. She types in Loretta Woodward Veney on Facebook and sends me a message. "Hey, my name's Tiffany. I live in Fort Washington. I think I got your mama." What? Oh my God. Is that the craziest story you've ever heard? That is why my motto is have no expectations. Who knew you could get your mother back on Facebook? So you see why I believe that? That's just my thing. And I couldn't have made that story up that I got my mother back on Facebook if my life depended on it. And so I just have no expectations. I got my mother back on Facebook. And, yeah, you can't make this up. And I think where we go with these 4 lessons, making sure that, we have everything we need, the patience and the forgiveness, and that we are prepared for everything. We focus on all the stuff that, they can still do. And I think we survive it. Is it fun? Absolutely not. But I think the more strategies we have, the better off we are. And so really that is the lessons that I've learned and what I talk most about in the book, Being My Mom's Mom. And while you're thinking of any questions you might have, I'll say the title came from her. We were in a McDonald's and my mother was ordering, and she only ordered an apple pie. And the cashier looks at me as if for permission. And I said, "You can have an apple pie, but you have to eat all your lunch first." And then the cashier bursts out laughing. My mother looks right at the cashier and she says, "I used to be her mom, and now she's mine." So there you have it. That's where the title came from. And I hope that everything that's in the book, I hope really helps people.